Oh, you came back. I'm so happy. Wait, welcome back. Today I'm doing 40 through 31 on my top 50 list. Now, I'm sure you were intrigued yesterday. You had perhaps an appetizer. Well, today I'm going to give you a little more meat. Was that nice and creepy?
Yeah.
That's what I was going for. A Study in Emerald. Alright, so, A Study in Emerald, and this is the first edition I'm referring to because I haven't played the other edition, is my number 40. And this is an interesting game because it's based on a short story written by Neil Gaiman about a mashup between Sherlock Holmes, written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and the world of H.P. Lovecraft, with the Cthulhu and the other great old ones roaring around. So the theme of this game is that the old ones have already taken over the world, and people are living as slaves to them, which is good because I thought they were going to eat the world. So I'd rather be a slave to a great old one than dead. But I don't really like being a slave, so we're trying to rebel against them, throw them off, defeat them. What's interesting in this game is there are loyalists and there are rebels. So depending on how many players you have, some of them are working with the great old ones, and some of them are trying to overthrow them and kill them. You don't know who's who when you start. This is kind of a hidden roles game. And that's the part I think is most exciting. In any hidden role game that I've played, the exciting part is the beginning, when you're trying to figure out where you sit in relation to the other players, what side they're on, who's with you, who's against you, and even more so, are any of them tricking you? That is going on in this game in spades, and that's why I love it so much. You have a team member or two, but you don't know who they are, so your actions on the board, whether you're trying to disrupt the old ones or trying to benefit them, will slowly through the game reveal your role to you, and then you can start working more closely with the people that you're pretty sure on your team. You can never be 100% sure, because there could be some sneaky guy in there, like I do sometimes. This game's hard to get. The first edition, it's really hard to get. I'm pretty sure it's out of print because they have the second edition out. But if you can get your hands on it, play it, because it's fun. If you like hidden role games and team games, this is a great one. And I love the theme, too. Blood Bowl. Now, this is an amazing game put out by Games Workshop, and it is not your traditional board game per se, because it is a sports game. It is a game of rugby / football / whatever these monsters play. The fun of this game for me is the fact that you are building a team, whatever race you choose. You could have star players in it, which are like extra good players that are more expensive to field, or you could just have regular scrubs that come out. And the fun is leveling those scrubs up. So you can play this in a season where you're competing in some sort of tournament with other players, or like a league, or you can just have a couple of friends that you play with and level your players up. But don't get too attached to those players because they could be killed or injured during the game. And they could be out on the bench with an injury, or they could just not be on your team anymore because they're getting buried out back. Now, that is fun. Leveling up, picking what aspects you want to increase in your characters, and then fielding that team and then having it perform well. Those are great feelings, and that's why I love Blood Bowl. Forbidden Stars. In case you can't tell, I kind of like Warhammer stuff. This takes place in the Warhammer 40,000 world. This is something of a 4X style game where each player controls an asymmetrical race, one of 4 races from the Warhammer 40,000 world, and you are flying around space, you're engaging the enemy, you're colonizing planets, or taking control of planets, as it were, and there are some pretty cool space battles that can go on. You can also do some upgrades in there. It's a pretty good 4X experience boiled down. You can play this a lot faster than you can, say, a Twilight Imperium. Since I love Warhammer so much, and I love 4X games, this is a great game that I love to play. So check it out, Forbidden Stars. A Touch of Evil. Number 37 for me is a pretty fun and big game, A Touch of Evil. Now, this is brought up by Flying Frog, and it is for me, a pretty thematic game set in the 1800s, somewhere in that area. And you are in a horror setting. So there's an old town with all kinds of things around it you can go to, like a sunken ship, per se, if you have that expansion, or an old mill, a church, whatever is on the board you're playing. And there's decks of cards there. So you explore those areas. You could be fighting monsters. You could be getting gear. Meanwhile, you have your characters moving around the board, leveling up. It's an adventure game, so there's lots of loot. There's lots of combat you can get into. And you're hunting down these monsters. There are monsters running through this town. The village has hired you to take care of them. Now, what's fun about this game for me is that you can work cooperatively with your other players, or you can play independently, try to beat them to the monsters, per se, or you can even do teams, where you team up and you and another player are trying to beat the other team. There's so many ways to play this game. It's great. And I love horror. I love horror games. This is a great one to play, and it's a very thematic experience. I think the whole package here is fun, and I have always tried to play this around Halloween. It's great. Pandemic, Reign of Cthulhu. Up next is my favorite version of a Pandemic game, coming in at number 36. We have Pandemic, Reign of Cthulhu. So this game is similar to Pandemic, since they have the same name, only this takes place in the town of Arkham. And instead of diseases, you have cultists. And the cultists, when they reach critical mass, will summon a Shoggoth, which is this big beast that's even harder to kill. And there are gates in town. You want to seal those gates, working in tandem with the rest of your players as a team. You want to shut those gates down, because if they get too many cultists on them, a great old one awakens. And that changes the state of the board. Each old one at the bottom, they're shuffled and distributed randomly, so you don't know which ones are out or what order they're going to flip in. And they will do something annoying that you're going to have to overcome. And they are persistent. So you want to stay on the ball and keep those cultists from growing and shut those gates down as quickly as you can. That's why I like this game, because it's tough and it's fun and replayable too, because just like any other Cthulhu-style game, you have a ton of different characters to choose from with their own unique powers. So you can make a customized team. You can work together during player selection, try to get some combos going on with your actions. It's fun. I love Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu. Railways of the World. I believe this game used to be called Railroad Tycoon back in the day, just like the old computer game, but they changed the name for whatever reasons I'm not going to get into. And the game state persists, though. It plays a lot like an overhead view of like a Railroad Tycoon game, where the commodities you're shipping are cubes, and they are distributed randomly in all the cities. Now, speaking of cities, this is another thing fun about this game. There's so many expansions. You can get Europe, you can get East Coast USA, West Coast USA. You can get so many maps. There's Mexico. There's a lot of replayability just on the maps. Forget the random distribution of the cubes. What I think's fun about it is you see the state of the board in the beginning with all the cubes of different colors, and you can kind of see which cities want which cubes. And you got to figure out how to work with your meager starting allowance that you're going to start setting up your rail network with. So that's the fun. It's the optimization of the network and building in a manner that facilitates that, so you can continue growing and just try to beat the other players at the end. So to me, this is a very fun analytical type game, but I enjoy it. I like the theme. I like building a train empire. I mean, the whole thing's fun. I think it's great. Railways of the World. Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is a solo play game, but you can also play it with other players on a team where you're all working together, chipping in little nuggets of wisdom. Basically, it's a big book full of scenarios, and you take them in any order you want. But I'd recommend taking them in order, because there are news clippings from older ones that could be relative to whatever case you have. The game comes with a big map, too, and a book. So if you're talking to somebody, they'll give you leads on where you might want to go. Maybe you want to go to whatever park. So you would look at the map, see where whatever park is, look it up in the book, and see if there's a passage for you to read. If there is, you read the passage. It could be more clues in there, or it could be a dead end. You just wasted your time. The goal of this game is to figure out as much of the mystery as you can, answering the questions at the end of the mission to the best of your ability, and hope that you beat Sherlock Holmes, because he's always right. He got the right answer. Can you do it as good as him or even better? it's not a light game. There's a lot going on that you have to be cognizant of and keep track of. So the whole thing is a mental exercise, and I think it's a really fun one. Shadows of Brimstone. This is a dungeon crawl game with leveling up and unique powers. So it's everything I like in a dungeon crawl. This game puts you in a mine, and there's this town nearby, and all these monsters keep coming out of this mine, so you're sent in to find out why, and your team goes in. There are a number of scenarios in this, and this is a dungeon crawl where you flip the tiles over, and you see what room you're going into, so everything's all mixed up. On top of that, you could find a portal, and that portal, if you choose to enter it, will take you to another world with its own unique monsters and items and quests and things going on in that world too. So this game is more than just the mine. It's more than just the Old West setting that you start out with. It could be anything. It could be anywhere, wherever the expansions that you purchase will lead you. So there's a lot of game in this. The leveling up is fun. There's equipment to get. I mean, just going into a room and it's full of monsters and you're thinking, oh, good Lord, how are we going to pull this off? And then you and your team, they actually succeed. They kill all those monsters. That's a great feeling. You move on to the next room and you keep going. It's fun. It's a good dungeon crawl. Shadows of Brimstone. Man o' War. Now this is a naval battle game with fleets. And what I think is awesome about this game, just like all their other titles, each faction or race has their own set of ships with their own rules and their own attack style, the movement style. The Bretonians, for example, they have catapults on them and they can maneuver a lot more easily than some of the other larger ships out there for the different races. So this is a game, unfortunately, that is not in print anymore. But if you can facilitate your own version of it or perhaps get a hold of one, it is a blast to play. It's great. There need to be more naval combat board games out there, and I really wish Games Workshop would bring this one back. It is fun sailing around the map, trying to outmaneuver your enemy, trying to sink their ships and deal as much damage as possible, while taking as little as you can. I mean, this is a replayable game. I love it. I wish it was out again. Games Workshop, please re-release this. Man o' War. The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. I saved The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31 for the 31st slot on my list. This game is great. It's based on the movie by John Carpenter called The Thing, which is based on some other stuff previously, but this game focuses on that movie. You are those characters in that movie. The base is set up kind of the same in that movie. If you're not familiar with The Thing, you should watch it immediately because it's great. Don't let your kids watch it. I watched it when I was a kid, and I was never the same since. It's good, but scary. So in this, you are on an Antarctic outpost, and you are cut off from the rest of the world. You run into an alien. Somebody in your group is an alien. You have to figure out who that person is. You're trying to work your way through the base with the other players, defeat aliens, and get on a helicopter and escape. If the alien's on the helicopter with you at the end, you lose. You got to figure out who amongst your group is the alien. Now, this is not like Battlestar Galactica, where you don't know who the Cylon is in that game, and they could add an additional Cylon or two throughout the course of the play, depending on your player count. This is kind of like that, too, right? So you could figure out who the alien is in your group early on, and then they might add another one in. So you constantly have to stay on your toes. You can't ever really trust anybody 100%, because they could be an alien in disguise and be just really good at hiding it. You don't want to take them on a helicopter with you at the end or you lose. But if you like, hidden role type games and you like The Thing, you should definitely get this. I love this game. The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. Well, thanks for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed that list. Stick around tomorrow because I'm going to give you number 30 through 21.
Thanks so much, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, please do us a giant favor by subscribing to the channel and clicking that wacky bell icon. If you're into board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, we have a bunch of audio podcasts you might enjoy. You can find those at thesecretcabal.com or on iTunes and Stitcher.